So welcome everybody to the Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 Town of Monroe regular meeting. Noreen, if you would take the roll call, please.
Anthony Vaccaro.
Here.
Lisa McQuaid.
Here.
Bonnie Franson.
Here.
James McKnight is off our board. Jason Storinsky's out sick. Jeff Manson is out. John Allegro.
Here.
Thank you.
With that, we have a quorum to conduct business and open the meeting. I'd like to point out the fire exits. There are two in the front of me, one over by the kitchen and the main entrance where everybody comes in from, walks in, and then one behind me to my left. With that, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Our first returning project is HBP Lot 4B outside area. If you'd like to come on up. Hi, George.
There's only one of us tonight. Good evening, George Lithgow for the applicant.
So, George, where are we at this point?
We are on the cusp of approval. I did receive a draft resolution from Ashley today. I reviewed it. I have a few minor comments, I believe, that I discussed with her, and we can go over them if you like.
Okay. I had some comments as well, so I'll
We
bring
have
it
a
up.
memo.
All right. George, why don't you go through yours?
So the first is satisfied. We have condition number 1 had a blank space that can be filled in with the date of the memo that was received today from the town engineer. I should add, I distributed a handout with the comments I do have, which I think will be fairly straightforward. So what I did was to extract the specific comments I had from the resolution and put it onto one page. So the second comment is number 7, which reads, in the original, applicant shall be responsible for ensuring the outside patio area is maintained in good condition. We did discuss, and I believe the board approved, doing the rear of that space as gravel, if that is the tenant's desire. So I added language to that effect.
So just my comment on that, it's already noted on the plans that the area can be either grass or gravel, so I don't think this is really necessary. If the board does want to have something in here to this effect, then it should really clarify that it's only referring to that area that's designated on the plan as either grass or gravel, and I would not use the similar surface language, just because I think grass or gravel would cover whatever needs to be.
So are we talking about this existing lawn area that's shown on the site plan, George?
Yes.
So where the 3 tables with seating are shown?
It's the...
Because that's
I
lawn
think
area.
that's actually an older plan.
Is it older?
Because I think,
Here's another one with the landscaping on it. This is dated 12/12.
I think it was the one that was submitted before our last meeting.
All right, I downloaded and uploaded everything
It'll be 12/23.
that I had.
Last revised 23rd.
12/23?
Yeah.
Noreen, we got that all?
You should have the
I could
last
email
set
it.
of plans.
Do you want me to email it to you?
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Can you copy me?
Make sure I'm connected here. May take a little time, I guess. All right. Let's see if I can quick find them in my...
So may I suggest a modification of what I proposed and just say, as shown on sheet, whatever that sheet number is, of the plan dated, and the plan I think you're reviewing tonight is dated 12/23. And just say, at the tenant selection, the material may be gravel.
So just gravel.
Well, I think if the note says gravel, we'll stick with gravel. So we're consistent, but I'd like to have it in both places so there's no confusion when we get to the building inspector.
So I would suggest saying,
And it'll be like a decorative gravel.
yeah, I believe that's what was discussed.
Yes,
Yeah.
something decorative but functional.
Okay, I have it here.
So at the tenant selection, the area denoted as lawn or gravel area, pending tenant coordination on sheet LS 101 shall be either grass or decorative gravel.
Yep.
And I just want to be clear, so it's the area specifically that, now, as it turns out, this blow up here is not showing lawn area, there we go. So it says already lawn or gravel area, that was your point, Ashley, right?
Right.
So we didn't really need to say it in the resolution, but it's just, it's consistent with the resolution.
Making it perfectly clear.
Okay. All right.
My next comment was number, on page 6, condition 10. The last line says, "He shall direct." I just changed it to the building inspector for clarity.
Okay.
So it could be construed to refer to 10. I just wanted to be clear. On page 6, condition 14, it calls for a meeting with the building inspector and representatives from the Village of Harriman and Orange County Sewer District. I think it's likely someone from the Village of Harriman might attend if invited. I don't think it's quite as likely someone from the Sewer District would attend, given the nature of the proposed activities. So just so the building inspector, I think, can extend an invitation, let them know when the meeting is, and they can certainly attend if they wish to.
So I guess the question is, should it really refer to a pre-construction meeting, or is it just prior to allowing construction to begin, there has to have been some notification to the village and Orange County Sewer District and that they respond back? Because let's say you invite them and they don't attend, then what?
I think you've extended an invitation. I guess you could...
Yeah, I think that's the by adding that invitation, so he has to have the meeting with the building inspector to talk about how they're gonna mark out those utilities and that type of stuff, and invite Harriman and the county. If they don't wanna come, then the condition would be satisfied.
Okay.
Right.
So there's not an issue that then they haven't.
Or maybe we could say, meeting with the building inspector and representatives, and at their option, representatives from the Village of Harriman and Orange County. That way you give them the option to attend if they don't want to attend.
It's essentially-
Right. I'm just leery of having this get into a loop where the sewer guy, they're very hard to get hold of sometimes, and
Well, my thing is, or my question is, do they have to be notified? And do they have to in some way consent because you're in an area where the lines are?
oh, they've already consented.
Okay,
Both-
so we
both
have
cases.
that.
So this is just saying,
They've
if you want to
given-
come and see what's
Okay.
going on.
Yeah, we have them, emails, I believe, from them, or a letter from one, email from the other. So this is really just to give them that opportunity
okay.
to know we're gonna start construction.
Okay,
That was a comment in my letter as well, that we should, the board should receive those letters from those municipalities of jurisdiction over those utilities.
okay.
So-
We did forward the letter from the Village of Harriman and the email from the,
Yeah, I don't recall
Sewer
seeing the
district.
email from the county, maybe I wasn't copied on it, but
I think I sent it, I'll resend it to be.
Okay. All right, so if there has been sign off, and we'll look at Sean's memo as well, we may adjust this further, but let's keep moving with the condition changes.
So were you okay with invite, or did you want to change
I
that?
I think that's okay,
Okay.
because so long as there's already been that consultation, then they've responded, then it's not as critical that they're at that meeting.
And the final comment concerns condition 17 on page 7, which, as drafted, provides for the applicant to secure all necessary permits, obtain all necessary permits. That would mean RD would be making a permit, application for a liquor license if the restaurant was going to serve liquor. And that is not, as far as I know, that would be a novel event for RD. Typically, the way they handle that is to put conditions in the lease. You have to be licensed, you have to maintain your license, you have to comply. So all those things RD will require of the tenant, but that's going to be the tenant's obligation and duty.
Okay.
So those changes were fine except with the last sentence, rather than the change that George proposed. I just kept in there, the applicant and/or tenant shall comply with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations, in case there's some that is placed on the applicants. That'll cover that.
Can we go back to page 6, condition 14? The last sentence says, during or after construction, the water and sewer lines will be marked with permanent markers at both ends?
Yes.
What does that mean? Permanent?
Means they're going to be right now, there's nothing that indicates where the water line traverses. It will be, when they locate the water lines, they'll put markers in, some form of concrete marker.
So on the surface,
Yes,
on the
or
ground.
visible on the surface. It'll be,
like a placard or a
well, it's probably just
disc
a,
or a stake or a...
yes, something like that. Just something so you can see the beginning and the end, the alpha and omega.
You
It's-
just want to do that prior to construction so you know where...
Well, they're
to
going to
begin?
they're probably going to flag those mains.
Okay.
So, I mean, the
They got to do the
sewer main
markout?
is way down. The
Okay.
water line is 4 feet down.
So
So
they
it's
do
not,
need to be in that condition, if you look a little at the beginning of that condition 14, they do have to mark them before construction, and then this also requires them to be marked with permanent markers, so that after construction, they'll know where they are.
Can we add the water and sewer line shall be marked with permanent markers at both ends in a form to the satisfaction of the town
town
engineer?
engineer.
So that someone from the town is reviewing those markers?
We would not do otherwise. We don't want any grief in the future. We want to be able to say, Sean approved those, and that's why you can't find them.
Yeah, I mean, because they're, depending on where they're located, there may be preferable markers.
Yes, no,
So-
that's, I mean, we don't want something that gets eaten up by lawnmowers, but
I think before we continue on with the rest of, so we'll still scroll through the resolution, but let's hear Sean's comments. We received a letter this evening.
So you guys the board has a copy of the comments, right?
Yes.
Okay. The first comment, just a description of the project, as well as number 2, just, it's our understanding that the board finds the outside seating consistent with the BP overlay district. 3 is, we understand it's a type 2 action under SECRA. Number 4 was that comment about that the write-offs from utility authorities should be received prior to the signature and stamp of approved plans.
Okay. If we make this a condition, I would say improvements should be received by the planning board secretary and town engineer, just so
Okay.
that you can confirm
Sure.
to us that we can sign it.
The next one, our office understands that the nature improvements will be paving stones installed such that the same can be removed and reinstalled, which I think was the intent all along, just memorializing that. And then the last one was the street tree relocation plan should be received prior to stamp and signature of approved plans. From what I understand, those trees are going to be moved on site, maybe not in the
Right.
vicinity of the scope of what's shown on the plans that were already submitted, but
There's 12 trees that are, I think were planted when Target was approved, 2007 thereabouts. We committed to working with the CAC to determine appropriate locations. If the CAC has an opinion about where trees might be needed. Otherwise, we're going to relocate them to areas where trees would be useful. I don't think at this point we have a relocation plan other than that. I did discuss briefly with Ward whether it's possible to relocate the trees now because they're dormant. And I will tell RD that it would be better if we can do that sooner because once they start to leaf, it's maybe more shock or stress upon the trees. So I know RD would like to keep the trees, keep them alive, put them in an appropriate place. Beyond that, I can't tell you what will happen. But what I thought maybe we could do is provide you with a as-planted map, so to speak, that will show you where it is. And that we've relocated them, we've made provision for them to survive as best we can. And
So they're going to be planted somewhere on the site.
yes, on lot 4.
And so the question is, does the board want to know where they're going to be planted, have a general idea before they move forward with removing them? And I would argue that I think we should know where they're going prior to the removal, so I don't know that that should hold up a building permit, but we should maybe at the same time that the building permit is going to be granted, there be some kind of memo to the board or some instructions as far as where the trees are going?
Well, I know RD wants to get a building permit as soon as possible. My
Right.
concern is if we have to wait for that to get the building permit, if we have to, I mean, if we give you a plan and say, here's where we're going to put them, and you or the CAC has concerns about it, we'd certainly like to address them, but we'd hope not to be held up with the building permit.
So, so if the CAC doesn't provide an idea of where they're going to go, you get a building permit, because you said you're anxious to get a building permit, you're going to be pulling out the trees, where are they going? I mean, we have to, so even if the CAC doesn't sign off or have an idea, you all have to think about where you're going to put them.
Well, we need a building permit for the renovations of the building.
Okay?
The building permit, I think there's a site work permit that you guys, or the building department, will issue, but,
For the outdoor area?
well,
you're
for the
referring to,
outdoor
or-
area when we're proposing to do the grading. But the building permit activities that RD is interested in are the building itself, the utilities, and the HVAC.
So you're talking about the building permit that you're seeking is for the reoccupancy of that space?
That's what they would like to do first.
Okay, so that this isn't then tied to this outdoor area?
Well, they're good, I'm not sure what the relationship is, but that's less important than doing the contract work. For one reason it's more important to do the building work is RD doesn't want to be doing that work in the summer after ABE has moved. They like to try and coordinate with ABE's renovation and do the building work, which may require demolition or, cutting into walls or whatever. They like to do that work before the AB space is occupied. So they'd like to do that as soon as possible. The work outside is less disrupting to ABE. It's going to remove some soil and put it back.
I don't know if this is legal or not, but could the board require a building permit, a separate building permit for the outside work? So that prior to filing a building permit for the outside work, that plan has to be
Yeah.
reviewed and approved?
Yeah, I think we have to have a sense of where those trees are going. So I don't know what Ben normally does as far as issuance of permits and site work permits, if they're different.
Well, how about, okay, two things. One is we have to come back with a tenant, and the tenant will have signs and so on. We'll probably be back, I think it's pretty certain we're going to be back before you to at least make sure you're okay with the signage and any modifications that specific tenant requires. So if you're concerned about where the trees are going, that would be a good checkpoint. I mean, you're going to raise that issue, and we're going to tell you where they went. But the other way to deal with it is to say within 120 days of issuing a building permit, we'll come back to you and does the board really want to go through an evening showing where these 12 trees are located, or you just want to know they're being put in a good spot and your CAC agrees that's appropriate? In which case, we'll work with the CAC and just tell you we've done it in accordance with the discussions that, and direction they've given us. Guidance.
So since Ward is here, a representative of the CAC, Ward, do you have thoughts as far as this discussion?
It does, I can tell it. I never thought we'd be sharing the same table.
This is shocking. Wood Broward
You
Conservation.
have to take a picture.
Since we're going to definitely, it looks like, move those trees, and they haven't been moved in probably 13 years, I strongly recommend that as soon as possible, tomorrow, whatever, go and root prune them, because those roots are, who knows where those roots are.
Right.
You want to send a message to that plant that, whoa, this is not going to be a normal year. The plant will then say, okay, well, I'm not going to put out a lot in top growth. They're going to, after you root prune them, the plant will then regroup the roots and bring them in. And it increases the survivability probably by a factor of 3 or 4.
Yeah, because I think that's the big concern, is that we're moving trees, and those
Right.
trees are not young, per se.
They haven't been taken care of, let's put it that. As far as, they've been top shear, but haven't root pruned. I almost guaranteed no one has touched those roots in 13
Right.
years.
So to root prune,
You simply take a spade, you go down, the deeper the better.
Right.
But at least, in plant terminology, the live zone is the first generally 12 to 14 inches. That's where most of your activity, that's where most of your real roots are.
okay,
Now, they'll send tap roots down for stability and for water, but generally for your roots to do the intake, uptake of their nutrients, they're within the first 12 inches of, but go down as deep as you can, as long as you don't hit utilities, of course, and go around.
We're good.
And it's almost, I recommend to every customer and ones who follow the recommendation have few problems. Those who don't, sometimes it's a little iffy.
well, and I think that's why we kind of want some plan and outline, because, I don't know how shallow you can dig them out. If you really cut most of the tap root, is it not going to survive? Will it survive? I just think it's useful to have a landscape architect give us sort of a plan with notes of the locations, generally where you want to put them, and then the process of removing them to ensure that they, we increase their survivability.
There's a rule
Maximize
there's
their
a rule of thumb over
survivability.
the years, revolved this scenario. When I have to go in and remove plants that have been in an area untended to for a long time, I'll root prune around, and I'll take either, if it's a small plant, do it by hand. If it's a bigger plant, I'll take a machine, go underneath with forks, and just gently rock the plant. And you'll hear a couple roots snap, then stop. That sends a message that says to the tree, we gotta regroup, we're in a whole nother ball game, and the plants will then ball up, for lack of a better word. And that's what you want. Right now, those roots, we don't know where those roots are. And if you lose half those roots, because who knows where they are, and some of them find avenues that you never
To
dreamed
look
of.
for water, yeah.
True. So you want to, that's all right. If you're interested in saving the trees, that's a precautionary step. Doesn't cost a whole lot, and there's no sense moving a tree to another location if it's going to die.
Right,
Sure.
right. Well, that's, I think, why we have notes and someone who has expertise,
Yeah.
either working with the CAC, but it sounded like you wanted to move them right away before they started to leaf in,
That's
and,
a prudent way to do it. Right now, George and I were discussing this. Right now, all those plants are in a state of dormancy,
right.
which means there's no top growth at all. It shouldn't be anyway.
Can they be moved now, or do they
Yes.
have to be moved closer to like February, March, when the soil's a little more pliable to then, to,
You can move them now, as long as the tree, right now is an optimum time, as long as the frost is not a high factor that you can't get in there.
can they be moved now and they have to be installed now? They can't be stored somewhere, they have to be put back into the ground?
They always want to be in the ground.
Okay,
Once you take them out of the ground, you increase your maintenance obligation to who knows how much.
okay,
You don't want to do that. Plants are happy when they're in the ground.
right.
Sitting in garden centers with bald and that's an abnormal situation. They really don't like that.
Okay. So we're talking and discussing this because of the timing of, I have no problem with the applicant, and, the board should weigh in, with them starting work on the building itself. But I think before that, I think you have to have a plan for that outdoor area, moving the trees, and it sounds like it has to be sooner than later to have them
Or
survive.
next year. I mean, we don't have a tenant yet, so on the one hand, we want to get the space ready, so if we get a tenant, there's a place for them to come. On the other hand, we don't have a tenant.
Oh, so you're
So
saying
it's-
this could go on, they may not even, that space could be vacant, and you may not do this for another year?
That's fine, with as far as the trees are concerned. I'm not talking about your tenants or anything else.
Yeah, no, but we don't,
Preparing the road, I'm saying just preparing the trees and leaving them in there, it's fine. They can, because once you prepare them, they've been probably good for 2 or 3 years.
okay, the root, when you say
The root
prepare them, the
root
root
would actually
zone.
get better. Well, actually, if you left them, if you did not touch them for a year, it'd actually be better.
Okay,
So that by all, as I said, prudent to root prune them and then you have some time.
so then maybe the condition should be that they be root pruned, and you may leave them there, but I think then we also have to have just general conditions on, they should not be replanted, or they should not be moved, except during certain time periods that's gonna maximize their
We used to have a thing,
survivability.
the previous planner, Leslie Dotson, had it incorporated into local law and on planting, and she, I think the date was like 31st of May. Don't plant after that. Don't start again until the 31st of September. But those rules are prudent in the old way before global warming. So, but we had to take, but basically it's a requirement that the worst time to move a plant normally is during the growing season, in the summer. Water is always a crucial.
So if we wanna include a condition about not moving the trees except during a certain time period, what would you have as the cutoff dates?
Generally, I would avoid the 3 months of summer.
Okay,
And you can play it by ear.
June, July, August?
Yeah, those generally are, unless you have someone who's really diligent with the water, which I never trust people when it comes to watering. I've heard people say, I water that plant, and I go back and I look at the thing and
Yeah.
it's totally dehydrated and it's
Right.
mummified.
So George, how do we fit this into your,
How about if we have a condition which is similar to the condition that you talked about before, requiring approval by the town engineer, but also, basically, we want to accomplish the same thing if possible. We want to relocate the plants so they live and thrive in the best possible way, because it's a resource and it's in our interest to do that as well. So if we can work with the guidance of the CAC and the town engineer is satisfied, we've accomplished what the CAC has recommended, that would meet the condition. And the question is, what happens if we don't? And not because it's our fault, just because circumstances prevent us from doing it, or the trees, can't go to a specific place at a specific time. And I guess in that circumstance, we'd be obliged to replace the landscaping. So whatever we planted there originally, we'd have to replace.
I think we probably need to establish timeframes that if those trees aren't moved, then they shouldn't be and they won't be
Well, that's
moved
what I'm saying.
like
We'll
in
do it-
July or August or
We'll do it in
June.
accordance with the CAC's
Right.
guidance, which the town engineer will verify that we've complied with. We'll have to get a landscaper to do that work. And we'll basically, it's in our interest to make sure we're following recommendations and the town engineer can verify we followed
Right.
recommendations.
I guess the question is whether we're going to have it the function of the town engineer, or whether the group wants some kind of general notes and plan to come back to the board.
So you could condition on prior to the removal, since you don't know yet where they're going, and if this board, as your, site plan involves landscaping and where those trees are actually going to go, if you want, before they could actually, because my understanding is once they're out, they have to then be replanted fairly quickly
If
after
you
that.
root prune them, that's the key to success. And root pruning them sooner rather than later is better. And once you root prune them, you probably have a time frame. You probably go 2 years.
Okay.
Okay,
You
so-
have prepared that tree so you got quite a cushion in it if you do the root pruning.
So
But then
root-
once you take them
But
out,
then
you have to plant them right
planting is
away.
another whole thing.
So root pruning is simply taking the shovel, going 12, 14 inches into the ground,
All the way around, running.
all the way around, okay. So why don't we have that done prior to the building permit? Because that's not,
Do you do that with the drip line, or do you do that?
You generally do the branch line, you say, generally when it would be.
So
I
if
don't
you-
know, I don't know what these trees look like, what kind of planters are, I don't know. I'm in there, so I don't even know.
I think they're in the lawn, right?
If they're in the lawn, then you go around the grip area.
Right.
Here, I can bring up the
Yeah,
photo
I
up.
mean,
I thought your question was more like, do we want to get involved where they get relocated?
Well, I think we do want to know that as well.
And how would we do that in a streamlined fashion so that we don't hold things up and review the whole thing over again?
Right. I think we just want to know where they're going.
So I think if you tie it to a condition that has to be satisfied before the trees are actually removed, that way they could still get a building permit for the work to the facade and other work to the actual building. But prior to taking the trees out, then they have to come back to the planning board for review of a plan showing where they're going to be relocated. And the planning board could then consult with the commission at that point.
You okay with that?
Which may work with George's timing of the signs for potential tenants, so.
possible.
Should we, though, be recommending, again, this root pruning be done
Well-
prior to the building permit?
I would,
Just to advance, and again, it's a,
I understand the concern. If it snows 3 feet and then it stays for 3 months, like it's possible, then we have to come back and say, well, we would like to root prune it, but it's a little deep and we can't shovel, whatever. I mean, we know what we're trying to do. We know it helps the tree survive. We want to accomplish that goal too. If we don't accomplish the goal, you'll have us do other stuff, and, it's just in our interest to do it.
well, then we
know
have to have a condition that if it isn't done, then you'll be back with replacement trees. And those replacement trees won't necessarily be one for one, because you're taking a mature tree and you'd be replacing possibly
Appropriate replacements.
So, anybody? John? Lisa? What are your thoughts?
I just have a question about the tree code in the chapter 57. Is that, if I'm not mistaken, is that not under the jurisdiction of the building inspector and not the planning board?
It depends.
What Ben generally does is
Here's
is
the-
he
here are the
issues
trees.
a permit, and then he will generally notify us,
Yes.
and that's a protocol. Ben got to be last year and said, this is what I'm going to be doing.
Right.
And if tree permits come down, I'm going to notify you guys, and then he gives us a window of opportunity for our comments, and then Ben proceeds on.
I thought that my recollection was it depended on whether it was something that had to be in front of the planning board, or a situation where trees are being removed and let's say it's a house and they want to remove 4 mature trees, then it wouldn't come to the planning board, but the building inspector would then be reviewing that with the CAC. But I thought there was some jurisdiction of the planning board as well.
Yeah, so when a matter is before the planning board for either site plan, subdivision, or special permit approval, then the tree plan is subject to the planning board's review. But if it's a matter just involving a building permit and involves trees, then that is with the building inspector.
Is that
So really-
relevant only to a certain amount of trees of, I think think 8-inch basal diameter or more?
So
I'll have
this,
to look that up.
Yeah.
so this talks about all applicants shall be required to submit a tree plan prior to or simultaneously with preliminary subdivision special permit or site plan application.
5783.
But let me check the trees that are. And the applicant is offered to do this.
To relocate the trees?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just looking, tree plan. It says, tree plan shall be required and approved by town prior to clearance of land, cutting down, killing, or otherwise destroying or committing any act which will lead to the eventual destruction of trees, including but not limited to use of invasive plant species, poisoning, tree topping, and damage, including filling to the critical root zone of 6 or more trees with the diameter at a breast height, DBH of 6 inches or greater, or destruction of a cluster of 4 or more trees with a DBH of 8 inches each with a 500 square foot area, within a 500 square foot area, or treed area of any DBH on slopes greater than 30%. So, are these 6 inches?
I do not know for a fact, but I doubt it.
They're not that small. Well, this is them. Some of them, like this front one is.
But this is not, what I understand the tree code to do is regulate land that has trees on it that are there. This is a site plan. So we're
This applies to site plans. Tree plans are applicable to site plans as well. It actually says that right in the.
Right, but this is an approved site plan with an approved landscaping plan, which we're modifying or amending.
So the site plan really should have a tree plan
The
based on this.
The landscape plan that was approved under the prior code does have trees planted at a large number of locations.
You're talking about the original development.
I'm talking about the 2004 site plan approval.
Right.
It was clearing, grading,
Right.
and tree.
So now we're doing a site plan for this particular tenant and the outdoor space. It has a landscape plan, which proposes how it's going
Which has
to
those trees on it,
improve.
location.
Right.
So we're
But there's also trees that exist there now. And again, the trees are going to be located, which is part of the site planning process. So I want to balance the fact that we need to have a program for when and where they're being relocated, but also not to necessarily hold up the ability for the applicant to do improvements to the building. But at some point, we need information and we need to know where they're going to go, and we need to ensure that there's some kind of framework, note something of how it's going to be done in a manner that preserves and protects the trees themselves and maximizes their survivability
So they're getting replaced someplace away from this building, someplace.
on the lot,
Right.
on the lot.
Because there's no room to put what you have there.
Yeah, they want,
And you have all new plantings.
right.
Got it.
So, I mean, you're not going to probably put them in the islands. So I'm going to imagine that you're possibly, I don't know if this is part of the property still, but put them somewhere around the periphery.
That would be my expectation. That's where most of the landscaping is, I believe. I mean, the islands are landscaped, but they do have trees already. One thing I've learned is you can have too many trees in one place.
So, how do we proceed here?
How about within 90 days of this approval, we'll work with the CAC, provide a proposal and a plan for transplanting the trees that incorporates whatever guidance the CAC deems to be appropriate.
Within 3 months.
Yeah, that would put us into April, which is still within the time that you could
try.
move it this year, or we could move it next year, whenever we need to move it.
Okay.
So do you want to put a strict time frame on it, or do you want to say before they could be removed, you have to come back here with that plan?
Before June 1st.
How about if we
But
say
if you-
we'll come
they
back
actually have
before they be removed? We'll try to do that within 90 days. So we can get a plan for action, show you where they're gonna go, and how it's gonna be accomplished.
So we'll do that within 90 days, and then when you decide to remove them.
How about, I think Ashley's suggestion is better. Let's do it before we move them. We'll try to get that done within the 90-day period that I talked about. Seems reasonable to me, but I have to talk to the client, obviously, and they have to get somebody to do that.
Okay.
So as far as that root pruning, does that have to take place within a certain amount of time? I know you said
It's quicker
sooner
the
the better, but is there a cutoff for when that could be done? Because George
No,
had mentioned
it's-
snow, so.
Well, if you root prune them the day before you're gonna transplant, there's no effect whatsoever.
But
So
before,
I'm thinking to
before they
have that
start
as
to-
a
yeah,
cutoff rather than before the issuance of a building permit in the event there's a blizzard or something.
Right, so can we do that
The
prior
street trees are-
to the
that-
building permit?
Before the building permit, or would that be acceptable, George?
Guys gonna do it?
Huh?
Never mind.
Because they
I could try.
can any time. You don't ever need a building permit to do.
Yeah, isn't that just a matter of regular tree maintenance, like?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only question is, are these gotta get somebody out there to do the work? They have a planter who does the landscaping, but for all I know, he's in Florida now. I just don't know, but we'll do it as soon as we can. I recognize the issue and the value to RD. I will let them know. They should do it as soon as possible. It will enhance increase the likelihood
Of
the trees
survivability.
will survive.
But we're talking about before the building permit.
So I was going to propose a condition that says the street trees that are to be relocated shall be root pruned prior to the issuance of a building permit, and then prior to the removal of the street trees, the applicant shall submit a tree relocation plan to the planning board for review and approval consistent with the recommendations of the Monroe Conservation Commission. In the event the street trees are not able to be successfully relocated, the applicant shall submit a new tree plan
A new tree plan
to,
for replacement.
for replacement of those.
Whatever didn't survive.
Okay,
Seems reasonable to me.
okay.
I
He's
agree.
gonna go out
You're
with a
good?
shovel tomorrow.
George is gonna be out there.
I have a spade.
I wanna see George out there.
I have a question with
It'll be the most
your
expensive
comment
spade.
4.
Yeah.
So on comment 4, you mentioned that the pavers are being used for utility repair, ease of utility repairs.
If they have the requirement of both the Village of Harriman and Orange County Sewer District is, if you put these things down there and we have to go in, we're moving them, you're putting them back.
Okay, there you go. That's what I want to know.
So and our client has agreed. I don't think we want the county.
Putting them back. The
Reinstalling
other thing
them.
is settlement and dealing with that.
So, why don't we, so we've gone, did you have any
We
other
got,
comments, John?
I have one more. I did receive at 5:20 this evening the parking calculation as of, that's number 5 of my comment letter. I just found a couple inconsistencies and then have to continue with the review for the 2015 and 2019 applications.
Okay,
So, the 2004 I agree with. The 2010 I found a very minor inconsistency that doesn't affect the parking calculation.
Okay.
And then 2015 and 2019 I just have to confirm. So,
Subject to the town engineer's review and
right, I think the final resolution should reflect whatever because it talks about it in excess of,
right.
so that number, should reflect whatever we come up with.
That's right. And
Just so we know then going forward, if another tenant comes in, how much excess parking we have.
it was helpful in the past resolutions to have that in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, so before we sign off then, you'll review this,
Sure. Yep.
and then we'll make sure that that number is accurate.
Condition number 18 had incorporated the numbers, but that's going to be revised per whatever final calculations
Sean comes up
Sean
with.
finds, and then
Okay.
the
Right.
architect's memo will have to be revised to,
Revised, right.
because that's going to actually be attached to the resolution, showing where it
Okay.
came from.
we'll do that. But I just want to clarify, there'll be a vote, they'll adopt the resolution subject to that condition.
Right,
Okay.
right. Understood.
I heard before in that sentence, I was a little concerned.
So I can't,
I heard the word before in that sentence and I was a little
Oh.
concerned.
It'll be a condition. The before was, before it gets signed, we should have that number accurate. So I'm just going to go page by page here. If anybody has comments on the resolution. My first comment is just in general, under nature of application, the very last line where it says decorative fencing, instead of et cetera, I would just say, and other improvements as shown on the site plan, if we can.
I'm sorry, what?
So the in the resolution, the nature of application, instead of et cetera, could we just say, and other improvements and information shown on the site plan, or something to that effect?
Sure, and other improvements.
Shown on the site plan.
Okay.
So our revision dates here, as far as the last revision date for this particular plan set, so the 12/23 is the last plan set. That's what you sent, Ashley.
12/23 is the last plans that there's two sets, so the first two sheets were from September, and those really show the elevations mainly and the exterior elements, and then the most recent plans are 12/23.
Okay. Then we have the date of application, filed at the planning board on September 26th. No requirement for a public hearing on this application. Seeker, that this is a type 2 action, I think, which we already determined. 239M, we did receive this. Planning board has reported that the matter is one for local determination, so there are no modifications or anything we have to be concerned with in terms of Orange County Planning Department's report. I saw there was one typo I did see. I think it said fall instead of hall.
Oh, yes, I saw it.
You see it?
Caught it. Thank you.
Yep, public improvements, I didn't have any comments. Resolution of approval. So I wanted to, instead of or her designee, I would put, and the chairwoman, or perhaps, can we say the acting chairperson? As the person who can sign, and the reason I say that is because a couple years back, before your time, there were signatures being done by individuals who really weren't qualified to look at the resolution and the site plan and make sure everything was in order. So I think maybe it's just better to leave it at the chairperson or the acting chairperson. But do you think that's too limiting?
I mean, by using designee, it would allow you to
I'm doing it, it's designating?
You could designate either the acting chairperson or any other member of the board.
Okay,
It would have to be a member of the board, of course, but it would be anyone that you would designate.
okay. So you think that's okay?
I mean, that would really just be more of a enforcement type issue to keeping Noreen on top of that and making sure that Bonnie gives the sign off before anyone signs, just to keep it that way in the event,
Okay.
both you and Jeff aren't here, that way you have your options open.
Okay. Or can we say, or a member designee? Does it have to be a member that would sign?
Yes, it should be a member of the board, yes.
Okay.
Or
Or a member designee?
or
Her designee of another member? I know this is like, I know you're laughing, but there were some real big problems
I know.
that
I was going
happened.
to tell Noreen.
Yeah.
She has to be careful because it didn't end well in that case either.
And so,
No, I was just trying to work on the syntax for a member designated by the member as the chairperson.
or her planning board member designee.
yeah. Is that okay?
Fine with me.
Okay. Let's say that. On one hand, it sounds like, again, very detail but there's, like I said, major problems that happen.
If you want to change your standard form, that's fine with me.
Specific conditions, is this the one we dealt with, deficiencies noted in the memo of January
21st.
21st, 2020?
21st, right?
Okay. Location colors, those. Any modification to building facade, including but limited signage and lighting, shall be subject to architectural review by the planning board. That's fine. Tree colors, materials for outdoor permit shall conform. Okay. Anybody have any comments? Up to 5? I think we went through all this. I looked at
Do
this.
you want to put it back up on the board, because Lisa and John don't have
Oh,
a
what
copy
happened
in
here?
front of them.
It's odd.
I don't know why it went away.
I have a hard copy of it.
There it goes. It must have just gotten loose.
And if you want to go to number 7, I could just go over the modification I made.
Okay.
We had spoke about earlier.
Okay.
I added in a sentence at the end of number 7 saying the outside area designated on sheet LS 101, and then parens last revised 12/23/2019, as lawn or gravel area pending tenant coordination shall be either grass or decorative gravel.
Okay.
And then in number 10, where it says the last sentence, says he shall direct the applicant, that's been changed to the building
Building
inspector
inspector.
shall direct.
Yep.
Number 14, we changed it to add the pre-construction meeting with the building inspector and invite representatives from the Village of Harriman and Orange County Sewer District Number 1. And then at the end, that last sentence says that it shall be marked with permanent markers at both ends, with markers satisfactory to the town engineer.
Okay. On number 16, site plan allows construction of only that which is shown on the plans identified. Are all the lighting fixtures shown, or might that be something that the tenant may come back for? The reason I say this is there's like such a proliferation of these wall packs that are not downlit, and people are just adding them randomly to buildings, and it's really,
Believe we've
Distract-
We
shown
do
the
have
lighting.
lighting on the,
so I think if there's any additional lighting,
I think that was
what-
discussed at one meeting, and the architect said it was, they had shown the lighting that is proposed. I suppose it's possible, since it's an outdoor use, a tenant might have some modification, but we would have to,
yeah, I'd like to add lighting to that list of what you have to come back for.
if you look at
Other than what's shown.
specific condition number 3, it says any modifications to the building facade, including but not limited to the signage and lighting.
Oh, it does say lighting, all right.
That's going to be subject to architectural review unless it's a minor, it's deemed minor and waived.
Okay.
And then I did add a new condition number 15, which is that street trees condition we had talked about. I think I
Okay.
just read that a little while ago.
So you added that,
Yes.
okay. So the others sequence then will change the numbering. Then 17, was there some adjustment with the,
Yes, so
reference to
that now
the-
reads, to the extent the tenant occupying the restaurant will serve alcohol, the applicant shall require such tenant to obtain all necessary permits. It goes on, as it's written there, until the last sentence now says, the applicant and/or tenant shall comply with all applicable laws, rules, regulations, etc., related to the sale of alcohol.
Okay,
taking out its,
Yeah, I just caught that. Relating to the tenant's sale of alcohol.
so 18, that one is the one that's subject to change. Because it says planning board finds that constructed parking on the site is adequate. So actually,
Pending on amendment.
yeah, we have to confirm what the
Right.
blanket memo says, so we'll work with Sean to get that done.
okay, and
So
that,
prior to signing the resolution, then, that's going to be something that will need to be resolved before the actual resolution signed, so if there's any issues, they'll have to come back then and we'll have to work it out.
So do we add anything to that actual condition 18 that says the town engineer shall confirm? Or are we just going to change that paragraph?
Yeah, I'm thinking,
It's like a condition of actually approving the
Yeah, I'm thinking-
The
resolution.
town engineer says it's okay, if the number is correct,
Yeah.
parking is, then
so
you
to
can sign
number
it.
one, I'll say disapproval is subject to final engineering review of the plan set and parking memorandum.
Okay. That's good. And then the remainder are just the general conditions. And we just have to change member, we have to vote, but the resolution offering
that's the
and the
form,
seconding.
yeah, I see
Yeah, it's
that.
just form, so we'll take that out. We'll change that.
Did I
Oh, yeah, we have to
took him
take
out. I guess
Jim
I didn't.
McKnight out.
Wait, did I take someone else out by accident?
Yeah,
You
I
took
did.
out Jeff.
Okay,
we have to have
sorry, Jeff.
acting chairperson.
Good thing he's not here tonight.
Yeah. Put Jeff back in, take James out.
Got it.
So is everybody good with the resolutions?
Yes,
With the amendments to the resolutions?
yes.
Yeah.
George, everything good? All right, with that then, I will make a motion that we approve the resolution for, scroll back up here, for RD Management LLC for the Harriman Business Park Lot 4B end space, subject to the revisions made this evening to the resolution. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any disapproval?
Did you do a roll call normally, or?
Normally we do. You
Whatever you
want to
want.
do it? Go ahead and do it, Noreen.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
John Allegro.
Aye.
Wasn't going to do it because there were so few of us here.
Thank you.
All right?
I do have one parting comment, which I did make at the last meeting to the acting chair, who is not here tonight,
Okay.
which is that I believe you guys should work with the county to, you can pursuant to JML 239, establish exemptions to the referral.
Right.
In this case, these are type 2 actions, both this one and ABE. They concern existing constructed spaces. I think you would agree the county comments have really not been illuminating in any significant respect that deals with your duties, so, but yet we had to wait for the review to
Right.
take place. So if you guys, and if you guys entered into an agreement, it would mean that you could take action without need, but it doesn't prohibit you from referring it to the county and
If we want
requesting their
to.
comments. So I think that would be a
Beneficial.
wise thing for the board to do, to move applicants forward, and not waste your time or the, actually, the county planning department's time reviewing things, which really are
So
not that exciting.
maybe we'll add that as a discussion to our next agenda, Noreen, when we have more people here.
Okay.
Whether we want to pursue that, and then we can talk to Ashley and Sean on their thoughts of that. So, okay.
Okay, so
Thank you, George.
I know I'll be talking to Sean tomorrow.
Yes.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.
Next item on the agenda is Berktold subdivision. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you state your name for the record?
Caleb Pavelski from Peters Eck and Fow Engineering, representing the client.
Okay. Could you give us an overview of where the application is, what's transpired since you were last before the board? I know you had your ZBA variance granted. Was this
Yes.
on the workshop?
Yeah.
Okay.
we were on
was.
workshop.
All right.
So we went before the ZBA, received the variances. You want me to bring the plan over, or?
I believe I downloaded, hopefully whatever the latest and greatest was. I thought I had that with the
Last revised the 12th of December.
12th of December. Let's see here. Sign resolution, submit. I have a
I can pull up. Let me grab that.
that's it? I think that was,
Provision block is above the title block.
okay.
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
That's it.
So this plan, does it reflect, was this before or after the ZBA decision?
This is after, so we included the verbiage right there.
Okay, revisions as per variances received, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So, at the planning board workshop, we talked about basically wrapping up the secret. I think they were going to finish the Part 2 EAF today, and then hopefully set up a public hearing for the next planning board meeting.
Okay.
As far as comments from Sean?
Yeah, technical comments, the one about the bulk table, it's noted as that lot, I think that's lot 1,
Mm-hmm.
is noted as greater than 10% coverage rather than less than. That Mark had suggested a note that if lot 1 is further subdivided, that the non-conforming shared driveway should be upgraded to meet the town private road specification
Okay.
for access.
If possible, for that note, I would like to coordinate with you and Ashley just to make sure that that note is good with both of you before we put it on the plan.
Absolutely. Yeah, which I think we could do prior to the next round of submissions for the public hearing if set tonight. And then the other one was the well testing requirement. I know we had talked about it last time about the town code requires a quantity test if so deemed required by the planning board or could be waived. Anthony had brought up about water quality. He suggested a simple presence absence coliform and E. coli test for each well.
So that was recommended, but was there any
Right, but
decision?
I don't think the town code requires it, and I don't recall a decision. My notes don't reflect it either, but
No, I
I-
don't have a decision on the water.
I would also say I went back in my notes, and the planning board, at the last meeting we had been on in September, there had been a vote on the well test waiver to waive that test.
Yeah, because there are two existing residences with two existing wells, so I don't know that we
Yes.
felt the need to have a new well.
There's no proposed construction.
So, I would ask the members, do you feel, with these existing wells, should there be any kind of water quality testing?
No.
No? Any thoughts, Lisa?
I don't know. I know Anthony mentioned it. mean,
Yeah, I
it
thought
sounded
we
like it's
resolved
better.
it. I was okay with, I thought we resolved it and said it wasn't necessary.
Oh,
That was a
Okay.
suggestion, and, but if it's not required, then it's not necessary. I just raised it as a discussion point.
Okay, thank you. I would, my reaction would be, I don't think that it's necessary, again, only because it's an existing
Yeah,
well.
I
and-
just felt that, I didn't know the standards or the septic system design and the well situation, so if you're going to be selling that to somebody, it would be nice to
Right.
know if you want to include that. But, it's not a requirement. I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
It's I think it's a good thing to do, but
absolutely not a bad suggestion at all.
So, actually, let me ask this, related to Anthony's question. When we go to subdivide, and these are two existing lots, the county doesn't ask for any information on the septics and as-built. Have we looked at that at all, where they are, to make sure that they're on the right lot, et cetera?
Yeah, I don't think the health department would be involved since it's only a minor subdivision.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any requirement that would trigger health department approval.
I'm
So
not either.
we do show on the map, the approximate septic field. I think we asked for that just to make sure, again, that the field remains with the lot that it's serving, the house that it's serving.
Yes.
And the wells are shown as well.
it's very flat. Do we have separation distances between the septic fields and the wells? Are they 100 feet?
They meet this. I believe they meet the separation distances. Yes.
What's the scale on this map? Is it 50? I think, I don't know if this is a copy or if it's an actual, do you know if this is a copy or if this is an actual PDF? Like, I know this is a PDF, but is it a PDF created right
That
from the
might
CAD
be.
drawing or
that would
from a
probably be
copy?
It would be a scanned copy.
A scanned
if
copy.
If there's a signature on there, it's probably a scanned copy.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say if it was a PDF that was created directly from the CAD drawing, then I could actually scale it off, but
Yeah, it might be a little bit off.
Yeah. You have your scale, or can you tell?
I don't have a scale on me, unfortunately.
I left my scale in the car. You have a scale?
I don't.
Oh.
It's in the car.
All right. Well, we still have to have a public hearing, and between now and the public hearing, we can still look at separation distances and whether there is a concern about the water quality. Anthony, if you would agree.
If
that's a concern.
If it would help the board, I mean, I can go into the drawing and confirm the separation distance, I can put some type of note on the plan that just shows, separation or
Yeah,
separation distance.
maybe actually show it, just measure it out.
Show a distance,
Yeah,
right?
show a distance between the septic and the wells.
The only issue would be, obviously, these are approximate locations on the septic field. It's not exact.
Right. The other thing is we're not showing topography, so,
Right.
The entire
100 versus
yeah.
200.
right, if it's uphill or downhill.
Yeah.
So, but you
The entire
probably
site
can,
is very flat.
yeah. Okay. Well, let's see what we could do between now and the hearing as far as an update.
The only problem is if there isn't the separation, it's a pre-existing non-conforming.
So it's still not going to,
Right.
Yeah, but the point was, and again, this was just a suggestion because we don't have information on the septic field
Right.
and we don't know if that water is contaminated. If somebody were to move in this house, they could take precautions to, to treat that water. And there are simple devices that would do that.
for real property sales, do they have to do any kind of water quality testing in Orange County? Because I
No.
know they do it in, I think, East Fishkill, for example.
I'm not sure.
No,
Yeah. It's not required.
Based on my experience, it's not required.
Okay.
All
All
Just a
right.
note on topography, the board actually did waive that requirement for topography at the last meeting.
Yeah,
I was just gonna tell Bonnie what happened last time when she wasn't here.
okay.
So they also made a motion to designate this as a minor subdivision.
Yep, makes
And
sense.
then did the topography, they did the motion to waive it. And then they were waiting for tonight for making the date of the public hearing.
Okay, and then doing seeker.
Yeah, to first do seeker and then
Should we issue the negative declaration so we can open the public hearing?
you'd have to set the public hearing. It hasn't been scheduled yet.
Okay, but in other words, do we
You
have
have
to
to
do our
complete
neg
seeker
deck
first, yeah.
before we can
Schedule
open?
it, yes.
Okay,
And I did prepare proposed part 2 and 3 in neg deck. I think,
that's the one we have before us?
did you give the copy of the new one?
Yeah, the one you
Okay,
gave, I
yeah.
handed it out. Because the other ones are sitting on the upstairs burner.
So it's this one, Noreen?
Yes.
Okay.
Ashley was very nice to bring copies.
So part 2 of the short environmental assessment form, which is what is filled out when this is a unlisted action. So, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? No. They're not proposing any additional building at this time. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No, again, no changes. Proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause establishment of a CEA? No. Again, just reading down all of these, with regard to the level of traffic, increase in energy, will it impact public or private water supplies or wells? Historic, archaeological, architectural, aesthetic resources. By virtue of the fact that this is just a subdivision of an existing development of 2 houses, there's no proposed disturbances, so.
Nope.
The responses are all no. Would the board agree with that?
I agree.
Yes? Anthony, you're good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. So with that then, I think we can make a motion, and I will make the motion to issue a determination of non-significance or a negative declaration for this action, which means that it won't have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and an environmental impact statement will not be prepared and is not needed. May I have a second?
I second.
Noreen, roll call?
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid,
Aye.
John Allegro.
Aye.
So with that, we have a negative declaration. So the next step would be to schedule a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay, and we schedule that for our regular meeting.
I believe so, and I think Noreen had confirmed there's gonna be enough time for the notice to go
Yeah,
out
get
between
everything
them.
out.
Okay, so what is the date that we're scheduling the public hearing on? For February?
Second, third Tuesday would be February 18th.
Day after President's Day.
February 18th, okay.
And submittal date is the 30th by noon.
Okay,
You got it.
so would someone make a motion to set a public hearing on February, was it 18th?
Yes.
February 18th at 7:15 or as soon thereafter.
2020 at 7:15 or soon thereafter. Someone want to
I'll
make a
that
motion? Someone make the second?
Second.
Noreen? Roll call?
Anthony Vaccaro.
Aye.
Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid.
Aye.
John Allegro.
Aye.
And with that,
Bonnie, I just,
yes,
at the last meeting, I also suggested, since we're gonna do topography, to maybe show some point elevations or spot elevations on the plan. And maybe that's relevant to this discussion about the location of the well and the septic field.
okay.
I don't know if the board wants to discuss
That's a good
that.
suggestion, so that the trigger for the 100 versus 200-foot separation.
So,
Originally, I was more concerned about the elevation of the foundation and the relationship to, but, this may be relevant to this discussion with the septic field.
Absolutely.
so we're not going to show full topography, but just to show some spot elevations around the building so we know
I
which
would-
direction.
I
again.
was just going to say, seeing as it's already, as Sean had mentioned, it would be a pre-existing nonconformity. Would that be necessary?
It's,
Whether or not we would need the waiver?
Something for the board to review and, yeah.
And I would just say, if we're gonna have this discussion about the relationship of the septic field to the well, and it is, it's not something that we're reviewing, but it's, we're assuming it works okay. If you're gonna show a spot elevation at the septic field and at the well location, that would help our discussion.
I mean, generally, you should have that from your survey information anyway, right? So it's a matter of calling it up in CAD or not.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if we had, no, the issue is I'm trying to remember if we had taken spot elevations from there when we did this survey. So that's kind of the thing I'm thinking back on. I'm just trying to make sure. I want this to run smoothly and, finish it up in February.
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think we're going to be 200 feet apart, because that would have been a way
Yeah,
just
probably-
to,
Yeah, probably not.
if they were
It'll
200 feet apart, then we wouldn't even have to be concerned.
Yeah.
But here, they could be within 100, within 200 feet, and we don't know if it's downhill, uphill situation.
If it were to be within 100 feet or be within, be on the downhill,
Right.
what would be the action for that?
Right. Well, they may be grandfathered in. However, maybe we can do Anthony's approach of suggesting that the presence absence coliform E. coli tests are performed just to, it's good for the residents that are living there to know whether or not it's present or not.
Right, or maybe even if we don't do a test, we could put a map note there that states that the separation distances are not met, and so the owner should be aware, so
Sure.
we stop short of having to actually do the tests, but there's, a disclosure
Right.
of
And
that
it's,
fact.
and it's a filed map so that if and when either of these lots are sold, the buyer is aware that.
Right,
And that's where I'm going with this. I
Yeah.
mean, we're grandfathering some things, but, this is an opportunity to review the site plan in general, because we're creating two lots out of this, and each one could be sold separately.
right.
I would want to know if I'm moving in. I would want to be aware of that situation.
So, let's see what information you might have, if you have spot elevations. And if you don't have spot elevations, I guess the other alternative would be to have a disclosure right on it. But
As a note,
let's see
yeah.
what you have. But plan on being at the February 18th meeting. And we'll start the public hearing.
Okay.
And see if there's any other issues that have to be addressed based on public comment.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, Eagle View.
This needs to be sent to
and we may table Eagle View, so.
Yeah, you gave me
I
that
told you,
last time.
okay.
So we were gonna discuss Eagle View with regard to the lot lines, and if they're in front of the ZBA, whether the board may recommend that they just create, since they're going for variance anyway, create normal lot lines, normal configured properties. But Noreen, what was the scheduling right now? We'll probably have an opportunity, or we will have an opportunity to address this at the next workshop?
Yes, the ZBA will be meeting this next Tuesday,
Okay.
and that's their first time getting the application.
And they won't hold a
The
public hearing?
the public hearing would be February.
Okay.
which-
February, at the end of February?
Yeah. they're
After
the-
our workshop?
Yep, they're
Okay.
the fourth Tuesday of every month.
Okay.
So whatever the last,
So I just suggest tabling it to the next workshop meeting, only because we may have more members and Jeff may be here. So,
their meeting would be the 25th, and our meetings are the 13th and 18th.
okay,
So between the two of them, any comments that I can get to the board before their 25th meeting.
so let's
And I can let them
continue,
know.
let's continue this to the workshop agenda. So again, just in fairness of those who aren't present. And are there any other items that anybody wants to bring up? Because I think we're down to minutes. And I don't know that, again, we want to hold Sean and Ashley here for minutes.
I don't know whether we can approve because of
Yeah, I don't know if we can approve them anyway.
enough people.
So, all right, so August 20th. Do we have, let's
John was
see,
apt, so we can't do that one.
1, 2, all right, table that. September 17th.
Everybody was here. So I just have to have Bonnie sign this one, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and then I'll, send you a final resolution for AED once it's finalized.
Okay.
All right, so let's look at the September 17th minutes. This is like deja vu. I feel like
I
we
know.
looked at these.
Well, we just haven't approved them. Is the problem.
On,
1, 2, 3, 4, okay.
on Eagle View Estates, Bonnie,
Yes,
a few paragraphs down, it says, Chairwoman Franson, we do not have the hydrogeologist here, and he did make a report, which I don't have here with me, but can get the information. Is that what you intended?
under Eagle View.
Yeah.
That was a hard one.
good night.
Thank you.
Good
Good night.
Good night.
Where was it that I said this?
One. Like 4 paragraphs down?
Four paragraphs?
It starts off with Chairwoman Franson, we do not have the hydrogeologist here.
Oh, I see it, okay. We do not have the hydrogeologist here, and he did make a report, which I don't have here with me, but can get the information on. Mr. Edsel, do you have anything on this?
Yeah. There's a report provided.
There was definitely a report. So,
Do we have that report?
Mm-hmm.
uh-huh,
Okay,
we all received it, yeah.
Here you know.
okay,
We definitely have the report.
Already emailed twice.
okay. Probably deleted it twice.
Mr. Anthony.
It was, spring, or
So,
January cleaning.
on the first page, 1 of 5, under Mr. Nemeko for the applicant, member Allegro recuses himself, RECUSES, I think.
Actually, I requised myself from that, so it's correct.
And what is that you're doing?
Just trying to move it along.
Did Jim add his sense of humor to you?
No, I had it
It's like
before him.
doubly? It's doubly. Funny that at the last food truck festival, they were present, Foreign Objects, and they had a tent,
Oh, they did?
but they had no beer there.
No, I missed, oh, they did?
No, and they're very excited to open their place.
I'm excited too.
Yeah, I think it's cool use. I just hope it stays relatively non-rowdy for the surrounding
Yeah.
residents.
No, those places aren't.
Yeah,
Then I like that.
yeah. Eagle View. Any other comments? This is a long meeting.
Yes. I was over these a couple of times before I printed to bring.
Jason voted no. I thought
What did he vote for? Which
for
one?
DG management, I think he voted, he agreed, but he just under objection. Oh, no, he did. He thought that lot should be, it carries anyway, but on page 5 of 5, at the very top. Maybe he did vote no.
Yeah, he voted no, I remember that.
He did?
Yeah, he voted no because he,
Wanted that
Wanted the-
16th lot or
yeah.
15th lot.
Oh, yes,
Like
yes,
the
yes. Yep.
He did, that was his comment.
Right. There was a typo, I'm trying to find it if you give me a minute. Not, I mean, a typo.
It's like a
but I
needle in
thought-
the haystack.
Yeah, I mean, just a typo I thought we're correcting.
Spell check.
That's brutal. I
Yeah.
live by that.
I get a lot of
America.
red by the time I'm done.
Hmm. I think I'm good.
So it was interesting because the polling of the board for the lots, you both disagreed on
For-
for the yield, but for very different reasons.
Yeah.
We should probably actually say the reasons, Noreen, that Anthony said no on DG management because he felt that the yield
Exceeded the waiver,
exceeded the,
the waiver for 500-foot cul-de-sac. I mean, it
Yeah.
is in there.
yeah, and that Jason,
My reason is above.
right.
There's a sentence clearly says that, but I
But
think
Jason
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 had a
believed
comment.
that it could yield more, I would say it could yield more than 15 lots.
I don't think there's nowhere I put it. Okay, I'll look.
And Meadow Hill, there wasn't any discussion, it was just, because all this has is that approves the conventional plan with the maximum yield to 6 lots. But there's no discussion about how we got, or did we discuss it?
Yeah. I don't know if I can get in.
I mean, that is the substance of what happened, I just, we didn't, it doesn't say how we got to that. But, you know, our meetings are recorded, so
Right.
I don't know that we need to add it. Anybody have any additional comments? Anthony, you still looking?
yeah, I'm good.
You're good? All right. Does someone want to make a motion to approve the September 17th, 2019?
I have a question with with the minutes.
Yes.
Is there any way to, I've never checked the audio, but is there a way to put in the approximate minutes when each
like the
item
time.
starts, so if you
Yeah,
have to
like 8
scroll
o'clock
ahead.
to 8:10,
That
that kind of a
kind
On the
thing.
video.
On the video, on the page, it will tell you where,
So if you go into,
I haven't done that.
alright, I have to get out of what I'm in because I'm signed in.
Now I'm afraid to ask questions.
No, if you go into,
Do you want me to go in? Can I go in?
Yeah, please.
you-
Thank you.
anybody who can get into board doc, anybody can go on board docs.
Okay, so so where to navigate me here?
Go
So
on to board docs.
on the Town of Monroe website?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to the website. Where are the board docs? Here. Board docs?
Yep. So you all have your own sign-in. I don't know whether you all remember it, but you all have your own sign-in.
Mm.
So if you go up on the top, you see the little man up there? Towards the right?
To here?
Town council.
Yep.
You want to go to the right of that, you'll see the building. You want to change it to planning board.
Okay.
Got it.
Then go back by the little man and you want to change it to public view. 'Cause you're not signed in, so you might be okay.
Here. It says
All right,
log
so-
in.
all right, you're not logged in. So then you want to go to meetings
Meetings.
and you want to find the September
And that's 2019.
Go to September 17th.
Okay.
Watch video.
Okay.
And then if you see the video, it'll come up here and then each one, why are they not there?
Oh.
I'm very sure, I think if you click on like Kingsville,
Okay.
or just click on anything,
Okay. Foreign objects.
it'll bring you, click on Kingsville. What?
this matter? Well, let me just hit this. There you go.
That's putting you back to the beginning of,
That's when I'm tan.
It's not even-
alright, so you're on Kingsville right there. So if you notice, it took you part of the way into the video. So
Ah,
then what it's bringing up is you're gonna listen to what's talked about for Kingsville, even though it has his
Face in the
on it,
beginning,
it'll
yeah.
bring
You
to
could
the
see it
spot
starts.
where
got it.
Each project, and you can listen to just the clip on the project.
Cool.
And actually, you could see here the timestamp.
Got it.
Okay.
If
Thank
you
you.
look at the lower timestamp though, underneath the red bar,
Yeah.
that's the actual minutes into the meeting is when we discussed it.
Uh-huh.
So like that says 1.22.59, so an hour and 22 minutes into the meeting is
This is-
when it was discussed.
It's funny because this is just showing the next,
Right, the next
which has,
video.
there's just not a planning board video.
No, they
It's
just
like,
go
who's
up
this
on
lady?
the website, up on the YouTube.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So that is part of the board docs. You can get into those once the minutes are, I put the clips in the video,
Mm-hmm.
anybody can access that.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
we're good. Now I have no excuses.
So now may I have a motion to approve?
Before you do that, I just want to say I've waited a whole year to be able to vote no to adjourn the meeting and make you all stay.
Great.
So,
Approve the minutes first.
so someone make a motion to approve the September 17, 2019 Planning Board.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. We're not doing roll call on that. All right. Motion to adjourn. May I have I motion to adjourn this meeting. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye. You had the opportunity.
I did, I did.
Yes, you really did.
I'm hungry.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Till our next meeting.